Okay, so this is talking about two-way tables. So if you have two columns of data, we have environmental club, are you in it? Yes or no? Snowmobiles, do you use them, own them, rent them, never use them, that kind of thing. So you can make a two-way table out of that data. So let's say we had a bunch of folks there and we recorded. Uh, this vertical columns are they in the environmental club or not? Horizontal, what's their snowmobile use? And we could even be nice and get the margin totals for you. So now we can see that there were 1,526 folks in the sample. So let's use this table. So I would write this down in your notes and try this with me. So let's find marginal relative frequency. We know that relative frequency means a percent. Frequency is just a count. Marginal, we're talking about the margins here. So if you want to find, say the margin here for, say no, how many folks are not in the environmental club, or what proportion are not in that? So that would be 1,221 divided by the total of 1,526. So 80% are not in the club, the environmental club, which means 20% must be in it. So we get that number from the column total of yes. We could also do that for never used. So that would be 657 over 1,526, or 43%, and so forth. You can see that vertically, those columns, those percentages are going to add up to 100%, just like 80 and 20 add up to 100%. We're only talking about one variable at a time if you do marginal relative frequency. Joint relative frequency is quite a popular question. So that's when you ask about two things. Here's a good example. So what percent of folks in the sample are both in the environmental club and own snowmobiles? So I'm looking for yes for environmental club and snowmobile owner. You see there's 16 folks that fit the bill, 16 out of a total of 1,526. There's no condition. We just want both of those things to be true. There are only 16 people that apply to that. What proportion of folks in the sample are not in the environmental club and have never used a snowmobile? So that would be, let's see, they are not environmental club members, so that's okay. And then never use, that'd be 445 over 1,526, or 29.2%. Conditional frequency works a little different. So here's an example. What percent of the environmental club members? Sometimes they given that you're an environmental club member. So of those folks, so we only care about, in this case, 305 people. There's only 305 members of the club. Of that, how many are snowmobile owners? So then you would say 16 out of 305, or 5%, 5.2%. And again, you can do that for whole columns of data. So let's say you wanted to figure out how many folks just are in the environmental club overall. So you'd say, for each one of those categories, 305 overall, but out of those 305, 69.5%, or 212 out of 305. So that's just kind of, using the conditional distribution there for each category there. You can also do that for not environmental club members and get that. Yeah, always good to talk about, don't just say the mean of this is greater than this. You want to say more club members. Make sure to avoid statements like that when you mean a greater percentage of club members. So it's talking about percentages there. Good thing to do. Two kinds of graphs here, actually three, but side-by-side graph. You've probably seen those before. I feel like they're pretty easy to understand. This one's a little different the first time you see it. It is kind of helpful for comparing slightly different things, and the first one really brings it to light. There's a third kind called mosaic plot, and this is where you can see a lot more folks, because the width of the bar is a lot wider. You can see a lot more folks that know they're not in the environmental club, so there's not as many yeses to that club. So it just shows it visually with area. When there is an association, that means this. So if I said, hey, you're in the environmental club, let me guess. I'm guessing that you have never owned a snowmobile, because that would be a pretty good guess, because most of those folks have never owned a snowmobile. Whereas if you're in the I'm not in the environmental group, you have a much more likely chance of maybe renting a snowmobile or possibly even owning a snowmobile, which is very small chance. Owning was not very much if you were in the environmental club. So those two graphs aren't the same. So that's kind of a giveaway that there is an association. Here, there is no association yet. Knowing whether in the environmental club or not, if this was the data, it doesn't really give me a leg up. I don't really know if you own, rent, or never. I don't know. It doesn't seem to make a difference whether you're in the club or not. So that would be no association there. An association does not imply causation. That's actually true. Let's go to this one. Okay. So here we have some data. I would write this down in your notes. So this is the iPhone data and different kinds of cell phones. I'm not sure what other is. I guess there's another kind of cell phone. I'm not aware. What proportion of the adult cell phone owners have an iPhone? So that's just saying big picture, like, do you have an iPhone or not? So 467 divided by the grand total of 2024. So that would be the percentage or relative frequency of that happening. Distribution of ages for adult cell phones is using relative frequency. So let's talk about the first age, so 18 through 34. So that would be 517 divided by 2024. And then the next group would be 35 through 54, and that would be iPhone users, so 171 divided by 2024. And we can keep going with that. The next slide shows us the answers there. And then 43% for the third one. And finally, the question was, what percent of adult cell phone owners 55 and older own an iPhone? So this, and that's called joint, right? We want them 55 and an iPhone. So 55, look at this column, iPhone, like this one. So there are a total of 127 out of a grand total of 2024 folks that fit the bill. So that ends up being 6.3%. If you type that in your calculator, get a decimal, you'll get it. What proportion of iPhone owners were 55 and older? So I'm only looking at these folks right here. So 55 and older would be 127 divided by 467, whatever that is as a decimal. What percent of 18 to 34-year-olds own Android phones? So if you're 18 through 34, we're looking at those folks. Android would be 214 divided by 517. Or in other words, 41.4%. On the distribution of cell phones for each age group, make a segmented bar graph to compare the distribution. So this one's a little tougher. You got to do a little pre-work here. It's going to take a bit of work. So first you look at this group and you go, okay, let's figure out because we want this distribution of, for each age group. Each age group, we've got to do this separately for each age group. So first iPhone, to get the iPhone, usually it'd be 169 divided by 517. That's the iPhone. Android would be 214 divided by 517. And then the other is 134 divided by 517. Again, those should add up to 100%. Not going to do the rest, but if you did it for each age category, it would look something like this. That's all your data. So let's try to make a segmented bar chart. Let's figure out how to do that. So you start with the bars here. So we go, let's see, we need 3 age groups. So 18 through 34, 35 through 54, sorry. I'm in that age group barely. And then 55 plus. Okay, let's put like 10, 20. So that's 100, and each tick mark is 10. You want to do a bar for 1831 for iPhone. Let's do iPhone first. So that's this guy, 32.7. So we go up 32.7, so we're on there. And then we're going to do this one. So we go up from 32 plus 41 is 73-ish. So, oops. Not the right thing. Let's see, 32.73, 74-ish. Then we got 4, 5, 6, 74-ish. Somewhere in there. And this guy, 25.9. So the rest of it would be all that guy. So you kind of color code it usually, and you keep making this, and you will get something that looks kind of like this. Oh, don't forget to label, right? This is age. And you want to use the unit, so in years. And this is percentage frequency. Can we just call it frequency? What did they call it? Call it percent. So percent makes sense. So percent, the frequency of that happening. But we're writing it as a relative frequency, so it is a percent in that case. You notice they have another little key for the bar chart because it's color coded. So they put, in this case, green was other, Android was red, and iPhone was blue. So you just have to, whatever colors you used, put that out there as well. I think the other part, this question does get a little bit tough here. So describe what the graph reveals about the association between age and type of cell phone. So if you had to generalize, it looks like if you're an older folk, older than me, 55 and older, then you're much more likely to use other, whatever that is. Maybe not a cell phone, I'm not sure. If you're younger, you're much more likely to use an iPhone or the Android. You're both more likely to use one of those and not as likely to have other. So you pretty much, if you're younger, you almost are choosing either Android or iPhone, much more likely just to have one of those. Those are the most popular for the younger folks. This is what they said. You can stop it and read that if you want. I like to read what they said sometimes. And that is the lesson for today.